Chapter 1878, Imminent Danger. Chapter 1878, Imminent Danger. Little Phoenix said, "Well, yes, it was only a spiritual elder, but once upon a time it was." It then decided not to argue with Feng Wu, for the little fool didn't know what the world outside was like. Arguing with her would only make it angry. Ignoring the problem, Little Phoenix went back to the original topic. "Fine. Let's say that she's capable enough. Do you remember how you've been worried about the safety of your beautiful mother and your brother?" Feng Wu nodded. She hadn't cared much about her family in her previous life, but after coming here, she was gradually moved by her beautiful mother's sincere love for her, and started to care about her family. "Once you take the white fairy out of here, she can protect your family for you. That way, you can work on your own cultivation, without having to worry about your family." Little Phoenix grew more excited as it went on. Whereas now, you have to constantly worry about your family while you're away on the Sinnoh grassland. Feng Wu agreed with Little Phoenix, but she shrugged and asked, "But how are we going to do that? The white fairy isn't just anybody. Will she come with us?" Little Phoenix said proudly, "Don't worry. Leave it to me." Feng Wu rolled her eyes. She didn't for a minute believe that Little Phoenix could do it. Little Phoenix immediately saw what Feng Wu was thinking. "Humph." Little Phoenix snorted in its head. It decided that it would show Feng Wu what it could do, and make her respect it. "Come, let's go to Universe Hall." As much as Feng Wu wanted to take the white fairy away, she knew that the possibility was next to zero. Standing in front of Universe Hall, Feng Wu looked up and was amazed. It was such a vast hall. Feng Wu had thought that it would be just another big palace, but as she stood outside the front doors, she realized how wrong she was. Like its name suggested, Universe Hall was as magnificent and grand as the universe itself. Standing at the entrance, Feng Wu felt as tiny as an ant. The hall had a peaked roof, which went high up into the clouds. It was grand, majestic, and luxurious. That was Feng Wu's first impression of the hall. Squeak. The ancient bronze doors slowly opened. They were hundreds of meters tall. In comparison, Feng Wu was as tiny as a mite. She was the first to arrive here, because the floor was covered by a thin layer of dust, without any footprints in it. Feng Wu had gotten used to following the white fairy's instructions, but from this moment on, she was on her own. She clenched her fists and slowly opened her eyes. They were as clear as two limpid pools. The floor was paved with white jade, and seemed to stretch on and on. Feng Wu looked around the hall, memorizing everything she saw. Earlier, the white fairy told Feng Wu that Universe Hall was filled with opportunities and treasures, but it was also the most dangerous place. One wrong step and she might be killed, and wind up as another ghost among the tombs. Many famous heroes had died here like that, and became ghosts which guarded this place, like Master Purple Sun and Master Blowing Snow. After scanning the hall with her sharp eyes, Feng Wu smiled a little. Chapter 1879, Master Ju's Animosity. Chapter 1879, Master Ju's Animosity. She knew it. The formation activated the moment she entered the hall. Universe Hall was indeed as formidable as the white fairy said. Luckily, Feng Wu knew formations and was an excellent formation master. Otherwise, she wouldn't even be able to walk forward. After some deduction, Feng Wu quickly made her way across the hall. But when she was halfway in, a figure entered the front doors. Hearing the sound, Feng Wu looked over her shoulder. Their eyes met. Feng Wu frowned, while the other person had a murderous look in his eyes after the initial shock passed. It was none other than Master Ju himself. Feng Wu recalled what Qiling said earlier. She said, "It was Master Ju who brought her and Chaoga into this place." She said, Master Ju and Sapphiro had been chatting happily. Sapphiro then told him something. Afterward, Master Ju grabbed his sword and tried to kill Qiling and Chaoga. There was only one thing that would change Master Ju's attitude so suddenly, Cat Nine's death. That was to say, Master Ju already knew that Feng Wu had killed Cat 9. If he also realized that she had pretended to be Cat 9 in front of him, he would be furious. Before Feng Wu could react, Master Ju was already glowering at her. Whoosh! Master Ju threw his sword at Feng Wu. But to his surprise, the sword turned around and flew back to his hand. He frowned. It's a formation. To kill me you have to get close enough. Feng Wu waved at Master Ju with a smile. She felt no regret at killing Cat 9. He had tried to kill her first, and she had been merciful enough to give him a quick death. Master Ju stared at Feng Wu with eyes filled with hatred and cruelty. Someone less fearless would have been scared to death. Feng Wu's eyes blazed with hate at the sight of her old enemy. She thought that Master Ju would never be able to calm down and try to solve the formation in this situation, so it would be impossible for him to come after her. However, to her surprise, Master Ju was able to calm down. He didn't look at Feng Wu again, as if she wasn't there. He closed his eyes every now and then, mumbling to himself. After that, he would walk a few steps before he stopped. OMG! Feng Wu cried out inwardly. She had always thought that she was peerless in formation skills among her contemporaries. But when she saw how quickly Master Ju was solving the formation, she frowned. That was why Ranmil had been able to solve the formation so quickly. Master Ju had been helping her. The two of them were 500 steps away at first, but with Master Ju's efficiency, he was getting closer very quickly. 400 steps. 300 steps. 200 steps. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. He was so fast. Solve the formation now. Little Phoenix yelled in Feng Wu's ears. You haven't gotten the seed of the spirit source yet, so he's much better than you. He's much stronger than Zhuqiangxian. Without the white fairy around, you'll be dead if you let him catch you. Feng Wu already knew how capable Master Ju was when she infiltrated Master Ju's camp as Cat 9. And he didn't show all that he was capable of when there were people around. Chapter 1880. He's catching up. Chapter 1880. He's catching up. Feng Wu also knew that the most important thing for her now was to solve the formation, but by Junwu Empire standards, this is a level 4 formation, said Little Phoenix. And that's also the maximum level you can solve. That man has been studying all the formations here for years, whereas you've only just got here. It's understandable that you can't solve it as fast as he can. It may be a good thing for you, because you've never met your match in formations before. This can be a wake-up call to remind you that there are more capable people out there. Feng Wu almost burst into tears. Didn't Little Phoenix see how worried she was? Why wouldn't it hurry up? Feng Wu said, You sound more masterish than my beautiful master. Hey Little Phoenix, when are you going to stop acting like some senior master? Acting like one? Little Phoenix glanced at Feng Wu. It was behaving exactly as it was supposed to. It was Master Phoenix. At least it used to be. It's all because of you. The bird glanced at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was confused. What did I do? Little Phoenix crossed its wings. Had it not been for the girl, it would never have to start cultivating from scratch. It was the famous Master Phoenix. He's only 50 steps away, Little Phoenix reminded Feng Wu. Feng Wu looked over her shoulder. Gosh, he really was. Master Ju was solving the formation at an impossible speed. While she was talking to Little Phoenix, Master Ju had been working non-stop. Feng Wu was sure that if she stayed where she was, Master Feng would reach her in 2 minutes. She looked into Master Ju's eyes. What a pair of eyes! They were filled with rage, frenzy, and murderous intent. What is in the south? The wound door matches the 4 azure dragons. Metal is in the west. The surprise door matches 2 white tigers. Little Phoenix started reciting. Feng Wu was already slower than Master Ju, so she immediately followed Little Phoenix's instructions. Whoosh! She picked up speed right away. They were only 10 steps apart before this, and Master Ju could almost reach Feng Wu with his sword. But at that critical moment, Little Phoenix's instructions changed. Feng Wu's greatest ability was to learn and comprehend things very quickly. She put the instructions to use as she listened. Are these the level 5 formation instructions? Feng Wu gradually realized what they were. Little Phoenix nodded. Feng Wu cried out, Why do you know them? Aren't you just an ignorant little bird? Little Phoenix felt offended. An ignorant little bird? It was the all-knowing Master Phoenix. From now on, call me Boss Phoenix, Little Phoenix said proudly. Feng Wu chuckled. But it was true. As soon as she followed the instructions, Feng Wu worked faster than Master Ju, to the point of making him desperate. When she looked over her shoulder, she saw that the distance between them was increasing again. 10 steps, 20 steps, 30 steps. In a matter of seconds, they were 50 steps away. Feng Wu was relieved. It seemed that Master Ju wouldn't catch up with her for a while. But at that moment. Chapter 1881. Humph. I'm mad. Chapter 1881. Humph. I'm mad. But just then, Little Phoenix told her the unfortunate truth. You'll soon reach Universe Hall, where the formation ends. He'll catch you in no time. Feng Wu realized that as well, and she frowned. This Master Ju. He wasn't any weaker than Zhuo Qingxian, if not stronger. She was able to kill Zhuo Qingxian not because she was more capable. It was sheer luck, plus the fact that Zhuo Qingxian had underestimated her. Master Ju here would want nothing more than to kill her. If he caught her, no matter how clever she was, his sword would cut her to pieces. Therefore, she couldn't give Master Ju that chance. We need to find the seed of the spirit source as soon as possible. Little Phoenix sounded frustrated as well. It stomped its foot and said, It's my fault. I'm too weak now. Otherwise I could crush this man, along with his master. Humph. Feng Wu glanced at Little Phoenix in resignation, convinced that it was only bluffing. That look displeased Little Phoenix. It wanted to explain, but when it recalled its capability now, it didn't know what to say. It made a decision. It would cultivate harder. This shouldn't happen again. Where is that fairy now? Right when we need her the most, she's not here. Little Phoenix shifted the blame to the white fairy. Feng Wu said grumpily, She's done all she needed to do. Plus, she hasn't slipped off. She's looking for Chaoga's master now. Little Phoenix said, Chaoga is the worst burden of them all. The look on Feng Wu's face immediately turned very serious. What did you say? The look made Little Phoenix lower its head without saying another word. Picking Little Phoenix up, Feng Wu said seriously, I know that as a magical beast, you have a selfish side, and I know that you care only about me. I appreciate that, but I also hope you can understand. I'm not all alone. I have my family and friends, and I want to protect and take care of them. I want to become stronger. I want to rise higher, because only the stronger ones get to choose. Only then can I protect the people I care about. It's not the other way around, where I become stronger by sacrificing the people I care about. We're human beings because of our human nature. I'm not a saint. I don't love everyone, and I'm not trying to save the world. I only care about those I do care for, and I'll guard what I want to guard. So, do you understand me now? Feng Wu was now holding Little Phoenix up with both hands. If their ideologies contradicted, she and Little Phoenix would disagree on more and more things. Feng Wu didn't want that to happen, so she had to make herself very clear now. If anyone knew that the famous Master Phoenix was being held up like this, it would be so humiliated. Furthermore, Master Phoenix behaved as tame as a kitty now. Little Phoenix snorted proudly. Yes, it had the nature of a magical beast, and yes, it was selfish. So what if it only cared about little Feng Wu? It was wired that way. If it wasn't like that, that great being would immediately wipe it from the face of the earth. Chapter 1882, Ultimate Hatred. Chapter 1882, Ultimate Hatred. The bird thought it made sense that it should consider all the people who were a burden to Feng Wu the enemy, and that they deserved to die. What was wrong with that? At that thought, Little Phoenix gave Feng Wu a resentful look, and turned its head the other way. Seeing Little Phoenix's appearance, Feng Wu realized that she had probably been too serious. Clearing her throat, she said, There. I know you care about me. Don't be mad. Let's enter the hall first, shall we? Little Phoenix burst into tears. It knew everything, but it still had to pretend and convince her that it knew nothing at all. As if that wasn't hard enough, she said those harsh words. The proud bird snorted and flew back into the ring space. where it complained to the unconscious beautiful master. Feng Wu was speechless. Thud. There was a loud crashing sound. Feng Wu turned around and saw that it was Master Ju. He had broken the confines of the formation by sheer force and was charging at Feng Wu. Shit! Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She ducked to the side as fast as she could and shouted, "Gaping ground! Cracking ground! Ground control!" She used all 3 stances of the Guardian of the Earth all at once. Because of the stances, the sword that was flying toward Feng Wu gradually slowed down. Thud! Although Feng Wu dodged in time, the sword was simply too fast, and it brushed right past her arm. It cut her left sleeve open at the elbow, and blood immediately oozed out. Luckily, because of the formation, all her vital parts were unharmed. Master Ju was so formidable. Feng Wu felt as if a hand was gripping her heart, and she was ready for battle. She saw 9 doors ahead of her. The vast space of Universe Hall was divided into 9 equal sections. That was to say, it had 9 sub-halls. The 9 sections each represented a different luck, and the 2 legendary ghost kings were in this very hall. If she wasn't lucky enough, she might walk right into their palaces, and she would be doomed. 2 out of 9. That was a high possibility. However, Feng Wu smiled a little. The White Fairy had told her the secret of Universe Hall before she left, and the 2 ghost kings were. There were 9 plates in total outside, and each would open a sub-hall. Master Ju was right at her heels, so she struck the 3rd plate without hesitation. Thud! Instantly, she turned into a streak of white light, and was teleported into the 3rd section. When Master Ju got there, all he saw were the empty stairs, and the perfectly still number plates. Which section did the girl go to? Master Ju tried to figure it out. Just then he heard footsteps behind him. Feng Sun and the others arrived. Master Ju had used an explosion to break out of the formation, and had left footprints behind. Feng Sun, Xian Yi, Sapphiro and Ranmil arrived together. Master Ju dash. Ranmil saw that Master Ju was in a foul mood, so she asked gently, "Master Ju, why do you look like you saw your archenemy? Did something happen?" Chapter 1883, Getting Interesting. Chapter 1883, Getting Interesting. Master Ju nodded. Ranmil said, "Oh my, you really did. Who was it?" Feng Sun patted his chest and said happily, "Since we're on the same side, your enemy is my enemy. Now Ju, tell me, who's your enemy? We'll get revenge for you." Master Ju found his offer idiotic, and he looked away. Feng Sun patted Master Ju on the shoulder. "Hey Ju, I think of you as a friend, so your enemy is my enemy." Master Ju gave him a grim look. "My enemy is your enemy?" Feng Sun blinked innocently. "That's right. Your enemy is my enemy." Master Ju said coldly, "Go kill Feng Wu then." Feng Sun looked shocked. "What?" Ranmil cried out. "Senior brother Ju, are you saying that Feng Wu is your archenemy?" Sapphiro clenched her fists in excitement. She had always wanted to kill Feng Wu, but never got the chance. Now that Feng Wu had offended Master Ju, she was sure that Feng Wu was doomed. Feng Sun had been patting Master Ju's shoulder a moment ago, but when he heard this, he frowned and immediately moved away from the man. "So, you were chasing Xiao Wu just then." The look in Feng Sun's eyes became very cold. Master Ju stared at Feng Sun without uttering a word. He acquiesced. Feng Sun was so angry that he shook from head to toe. Without another word, he drew the purple sun sword from behind his back and pointed it at Master Ju. "Pick up your weapon." Ranmil frowned a little. She had worked so hard to draw Feng Sun to her side, but Feng Wu was going to destroy all her efforts just at the sound of her name. She wouldn't let that happen. She was well aware of Feng Sun's relationship with Jun Linyuan. She knew that they had grown up together, and that Feng Sun was Jun Linyuan's most loyal friend. To get Jun Linyuan, she had to earn Feng Sun's trust first. That was why she had been trying to get close to Feng Sun this whole time. "Young Lord Feng, please don't." Ranmil stopped Feng Sun. "Let's talk it over. Senior brother Ju might not mean what he said. Plus, if he said that, I'm sure that Feng Wu offended him somehow. Otherwise, My senior brother wouldn't want to kill her for no reason. Ranmil spoke in her softest voice. Her beauty was so innocent, and her voice was so tender that it sounded like flowing water. It could melt anyone's heart. However, Feng Sun was no longer as nice to her as before. He smirked and brushed Ranmil to the side. Ranmil caught his sleeve. Feng Sun, it had to be Feng Wu's fault. Feng Sun shouted. Xiao Wu is never wrong. If someone is at fault, it has to be the other person. Ranmil shook from head to toe in rage. How could someone be so unreasonable? Feng Sun stared at Master Ju with cold eyes. Feng Wu is under Boss Jun's protection. Touch her and you, your clan and your sect will all die. Master Ju smirked. Do you know who my master is? You're bragging. Feng Sun said. I don't care who your master is. If you harm Feng Wu, all those people will die. Chapter 1884. Everyone thought. Chapter 1884. Everyone thought. Master Ju said. His Royal Highness may care about Feng Wu, but he's not going to offend one of the most powerful masters on this continent for a bed-warming maid. You think too highly of your boss Jun. Feng Sun yelled. Are you an idiot? Who told you that Xiao Wu was only a bed-warming maid? Xiao Wu is his future wife. Those words were like a thunderclap in everyone's ears. Ranmil was so astonished that all the color drained from her face. His future wife. Master Ju stared at Feng Sun. That made Feng Sun's threat very real. Jun Linyuan was simply too powerful and frightening to be an enemy. Wasn't the engagement annulled? Ranmil blurted out. She immediately realized that she had said the wrong thing, because it would show how much attention she paid to Jun Linyuan. But at that moment, she was pretending to be someone who couldn't be bothered to talk to Jun Linyuan. However, everyone else was too shocked by Feng Sun's news to notice her strange reaction. Since Feng Sun had said it, he decided to tell the whole truth. He smirked. Everyone thought that Boss Jun terminated the marriage arrangement when Feng Wu lost her ability. Boss Jun isn't such a petty person. He would never do that for such a silly reason. That's just preposterous. No one noticed Ranmil's clenched fists and the way she bit her lower lip. Sapphiro asked in frustration. So, His Royal Highness has been engaged this whole time? He never cancelled the agreement? Feng Wu has been His Royal Highness's fiancé for the past 5 years? Resting his hands on his waist, Feng Sun said proudly. Yes, of course. All the women out there throw themselves at Boss Jun, and they all want to become the Crown Prince's wife. Ha ha ha. They have no idea that the candidate for that position has never changed. Ranmil said. I don't think a lot of people know that. Feng Sun said. Of course they don't. Why do you think Boss Jun has been protecting Feng Wu the whole time? Because she's his future wife. I've seen a lot of crazy women over the years, but... He then praised Ranmil. Of all these women, you're the most special one. Other women all jump at Boss Jun, but you... Feng Sun nodded at Ranmil. You're the only one who's not in love with Boss Jun. Was that supposed to be a compliment? Ranmil couldn't bring herself to smile anymore. Feng Wu was the only person she could think about now. If she had only thought about killing Feng Wu earlier, she knew she had to do it for real now, and as soon as possible. Where is she? Feng Sun shifted his attention back to Master Ju. Master Ju only snorted. He held the hilt of his sword and stepped back. After you. He wanted Feng Sun to choose the section to enter first. Eager to find Feng Wu, Feng Sun was going to pick one, when Xianyi nudged him with his elbow and gave him a warning look. Feng Sun and Xianyi grew up together and could understand each other very well. That look was all that was needed. Feng Sun threw a dirty look at Master Ju and remained where he was. Ranmil pretended to be confused. Young Lord Feng, why won't you pick one? Chapter 1885. She still looks so innocent. Chapter 1885. She still looks so innocent. Feng Sun snorted. I'll wait until your Master Ju makes his choice. Ranmil's stomach lurched, and she had a bad feeling. Why? That's simple. Crossing his arms, Feng Sun gave Master Ju a half-smile. He's trying to kill Xiao Wu, isn't he? I'll stay with him, and see how he's going to do that. Without knowing where Feng Wu was, That was the best way to stop Master Ju from killing her. Ranmil had wanted to come up with a plan with Master Ju to kill Feng Wu after Feng Sun entered the hall, but that wouldn't happen now. However, Ranmil smirked. While Feng Sun and Xianni guarded Master Ju, no one had any idea that Ranmil wanted to kill Feng Wu as well. To them, she was still as innocent and kind as she always appeared to be. She smiled and said, "Fine. My dear young lords, you can stay here with my senior master. I'm off." She gave Master Ju a meaningful look as she spoke. Master Ju stared at the third plate. Ranmil immediately took the hint. Master Ju had been trying to deduce which section Feng Wu had entered, and he noticed that the third plate was a little dimmer than the other 8. One couldn't tell with the naked eye, but it was detectable with spiritual essence. Ranmil smiled a little. "I'll just pick one then. Wish me good luck." The next second, she entered the third section. "Sister, wait. I'm coming with you." Sapphiro had been observing her sister the entire time. The two of them grew up together, and Sapphiro had been tricked many times by Ranmil's innocent facade. That was why she had been observing Ranmil. As expected, she saw the interaction between Ranmil and Master Ju. She realized that Ranmil wanted to kill Feng Wu, and she didn't want to miss that. Therefore, when Ranmil teleported into the third section, Sapphiro followed her. Feng Sun stared at Master Ju. "Which one are you going to pick? We'll keep you company." Master Ju reasoned in his head. Ranmil was a spiritual lord powerful enough to be the lord of a kingdom, whereas Feng Wu was only a level 7 spiritual elder. No matter how smart she was, the best she could do was defeat someone a level higher. She wouldn't stand a chance against Ranmil. "Well, there are so many people here." The crowd heard a voice. Feng Sun turned around and frowned. It was none other than the second prince. And he wasn't alone. If Feng Wu were here, she would have jumped to her feet. Because the person next to the second prince was none other than Zhuqiangxian. Hadn't Feng Wu killed him already? Why was he here? Zhuqiangxian was a little pale, and he looked grimmer than before. Other than that, he was the same. Master Ju smiled a little. The second prince was Jun Lingyuan's rival, whereas Feng Sun was Jun Lingyuan's man. The enemy of an enemy was a friend. It seemed that he could partner up with the second prince. Chapter 1886, Light of Dantian. Chapter 1886, Light of Dantian. Your Royal Highness. Master Ju greeted the second prince first, which was very rare for him. The second prince glanced at Master Ju in surprise, because the proud man had never initiated a conversation, ever since he showed up, but now, when he saw Feng Sun, he immediately realized what was going on. Interesting. Very interesting. At the same time, Feng Wu rushed forward as soon as she entered the third section. According to the White Fairy, 999 steps into the third section, she would find what she needed in the third room on the left. The treasure hunt was a difficult task for other people, but because of the White Fairy's tips, she didn't encounter any difficulty at all. Squeak. Feng Wu pushed the door open and was met with a sea of golden light. The translucent light all came from the pure spiritual essence that could solidify one's dantian, which Feng Wu needed the most right now. She was elated. It would be some time before Master Ju and the others got here. So Feng Wu sat down cross-legged, closed her eyes, and concentrated. Soon she started cultivating. The dots of light around her seemed to line up and began to enter Feng Wu's body in turn as she breathed in and out. Usually, it would be very difficult for Feng Wu to obtain these dots, and she had to refine them bit by bit. But here, they were ready to be absorbed. She didn't need to refine them at all. Excited, Feng Wu circulated the light she absorbed through her energy channels. The light then moved to her dantian and began to take effect. Feng Wu's dantian was rapidly being solidified, and the dots of light in the room were disappearing as well. As time went by, they grew fewer and fewer in number. 80%, 50%, 30%. By the time there was only 10% of the light left, Feng Wu's dantian had reached an amazing state. It would be enough even for a spiritual lord. Since this was a rare opportunity, Feng Wu wasn't going to waste any of the light, because she didn't know when she would have such an opportunity again. She sat there and went on absorbing the light. 8%. 5%. 3%. Just then, Feng Wu's eyelashes quivered, and she opened her eyes. Enemies were approaching. Feng Wu held the Ghost King seal tighter, looked at a sealed closet nearby and smiled. She now realized where the dots of light came from. Right at that moment. Thump! There was a loud thump. The door opened. Sapphiro came in first. Behind her was Ran Mill, who looked as pure as a white lotus. Finally, she and Feng Wu met again. Feng Wu, it really is you. Seeing that Feng Wu was all by herself, Sapphiro shook from head to toe with excitement. She had been waiting for this moment for too long. Are you absorbing the light of Dantian? Ranmil stared at Feng Wu with cold eyes. Her eyes turned red when she saw the dots of light floating in the air. Chapter 1887, You're the Pig. Chapter 1887, You're the Pig. The light was known as the light of Dantian. In the world outside it was such a rare resource. But now Feng Wu had absorbed so much of it. With a wave of her hand, Ranmil absorbed the remaining dots of light. While she was digesting the light of Dantian, Sapphiro walked up to Feng Wu. Crossing her arms, she looked down at Feng Wu, her demeanor utterly arrogant. Hey, isn't it the legendary Princess Feng Wu? Why, are you all alone now? Sapphiro said mockingly. Feng Wu remained completely unperturbed. You're still so calm, aren't you? Sapphiro crouched down in front of Feng Wu and looked at her, as if she were already dead. Feng Wu ignored her. Feng Wu, who gave you the right to be so arrogant now? Sapphiro stared at Feng Wu. Are you really Jun Lingyuan's fiancé? Feng Wu's calm face finally seemed to stir. She frowned and said, That's bullshit. Sapphiro smirked. Are you still trying to keep it from us? Feng Wu, you're such a hypocrite. What? Are you afraid that we'll take His Royal Highness away from you? Feng Wu couldn't be bothered to reply. Sapphiro shoved her. What's that look on your face? You can't be bothered to talk to me? That's right. You're the future wife of His Royal Highness. Of course we're not good enough for you. Feng Wu frowned. I told you already. That's not true. You're his fiancé. Stop denying it. Sapphiro said angrily. Feng Sun said it himself, and Xianyi didn't deny it either. They can't both be lying. Feng Wu frowned even deeper. But our engagement was cancelled. Before she could go on, Sapphiro shoved her again. Feng Sun told us that it was never cancelled. You're still Jun Lingyuan's future wife. Feng Wu stared at her in astonishment. Sapphiro looked at Feng Wu and shook her head. She then turned to Ranmil and said, Sister, do you see that face? She's such a good actress. She acts as if she doesn't know anything about it. Feng Wu said, I really don't. Sapphiro sneered at Feng Wu and sighed. Feng Wu, to be honest with you, you have a lot of qualities that I like. You're smart, pretty, and resourceful. But do you know what I hate about you the most? You can be such a hypocrite. She pointed at Feng Wu and yelled, I hate it that you said nothing when you knew about your relationship with His Royal Highness. I hate that you never told anyone about how respectable you actually are. You're so fake. If you told us about your relationship with His Royal Highness from the beginning, I would never have tried to do anything to you. But you're just too fake and too good at hiding. Your acting was so believable that I took the risk. So don't blame me when you're dead. You wanted to play the pig so that you can end up eating the tiger when no one was watching. But as it turned out, you really are the pig. Feng Wu said innocently, You're the pig. Chapter 1888, Clever Feng Wu 1. Chapter 1888, Clever Feng Wu 1. I'm not arguing with you. Sapphiro rolled her eyes at Feng Wu. Don't you know you're going to die? Feng Wu looked innocently at Sapphiro and shook her head. No, I don't. Sapphiro smirked and gestured at Ranmil. I'm not going to kill you, nor am I able to. But from this moment on, she's going to decide if you live or die. Feng Wu glanced at Ranmil. Sapphiro was right in saying that she wasn't capable enough to be Feng Wu's rival, but Ranmil was. Meanwhile, Ranmil had finished absorbing the last of the light of Dantian. With her naturally innocent face, Ranmil had always seemed adorable and harmless. She had always left that impression on everyone else. But now, she crossed her hands behind her back and looked down at Feng Wu with eyes filled with hatred. I don't like taking lives. Ranmil sounded like she feared that killing an ant would dirty her hands. So do it yourself. Clang. She tossed a dagger onto the ground next to Feng Wu. Ranmil was so arrogant that she couldn't be bothered to glance at Feng Wu. It was obvious that she didn't think Feng Wu was her match. Feng Wu stared at Ranmil and narrowed her eyes. Sapphiro had fallen into Feng Wu's trap before and had learned her lesson. She stepped back all the way to the entrance. The fight was between Ranmil and Feng Wu, and guarding the door was all that Sapphiro was going to do. You won't do it yourself then? Ranmil glanced at Feng Wu. Feng Wu smirked. Ranmil sounded confused. Your dead body will be intact if you take your own life. If I do it, you'll be in pieces. Don't you understand? Feng Wu went on smirking. Ranmil said scornfully, Why are you making me do it? She looked at her fair hands and sounded a little distressed when she said, When His Royal Highness holds them one day, will he mind that they were once covered with blood? Well, I'll never be able to hold his hands if I don't kill you. Ranmil seemed to be convincing herself, but she didn't even take out her weapon. She thought so little of Feng Wu. Die! She slowly struck down at Feng Wu. The strike seemed so slow and gentle, but it contained half the power of a spiritual lord. Feng Wu stumbled back. Ranmil smirked. How dare a woman like that try to compete with her? She didn't even turn around to look, because she was convinced that Feng Wu was going to die. She shook her head at Sapphiro. I've heard about this Sui Qinghuan from the Zhenwu Empire. She's supposed to be as talented as she is beautiful. Only someone like her is good enough to be my rival. As for this woman, she's just an ant. But Sapphiro cried out at that moment. Surprised, Ranmil turned to look. She immediately frowned. Countless ghosts were flying out of a cabinet. There were at least 1,000 of them. And they were all spiritual elders. Chapter 1889, Clever Feng Wu 2. Chapter 1889, Clever Feng Wu 2. One spiritual elder ghost wasn't much of a threat, but when there was a swarm of them, it could be quite troublesome. What about Feng Wu? She remained where she was and smiled brightly. Thousands of ghosts flew past her and charged at Ranmil. That was clever, but such a petty trick. Ranmil struck out at the ghosts. Thump, thump, thump. 5 ghosts were immediately struck down. But it didn't intimidate the others, and they kept charging at Ranmil. Ranmil smirked. You're not afraid, are you? I'll destroy you all. She wasn't in a rush to kill Feng Wu, because to her, Feng Wu was dead already, and she didn't believe that Feng Wu could escape. Feng Wu, I'll show you how easily I can kill spiritual elders. Ranmil deliberately showed off her skills in front of Feng Wu. Thump, 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 thump. Thousands of ghosts were smashed and kicked away by Ranmil, turning into dots of light before they disappeared. Eventually, they were all destroyed, and Feng Wu was all by herself again. Ranmil turned around and glanced at Feng Wu with a smirk on her face. Feng Wu, is that all you can do? Feng Wu smiled. I do have more advanced tricks, but I don't think you can take them. Ranmil snorted. She looked like a different person from when she was around Feng Sun. Feng Sun saw Ranmil as an innocent and harmless princess, but now, she couldn't be any more arrogant. Are you sure you can take it? Feng Wu smiled. Ranmil snorted. You're running out of tricks, aren't you? Feng Wu said. Didn't you notice? Those ghosts were all female. Ranmil was confused. Feng Wu grinned. So where did the male ones go? An idea seemed to hit Ranmil, and she stared at Feng Wu. Enjoy the next part then. They can't wait to spend some quality time with you. Feng Wu smiled innocently. Ranmil was shocked when the male ghosts entered the room, because their eyes were filled with desire. Feng Wu, you! She was furious. The way they looked at her made her feel like she had been stripped of all her clothes. It was very unpleasant. However, she didn't have time to blame Feng Wu anymore. because a group of male ghosts were slowly approaching her. Go away! Go away! Ranmil waved her fists. She didn't even dare open her eyes, because none of them were wearing any clothes. Feng Wu, I'm gonna kill you. Ranmil finally lost her temper. Of course Feng Wu wouldn't wait there to be killed. While Ranmil was throwing a tantrum, Feng Wu slipped out a back door. That was close, she thought to herself. Chapter 1890 Clever Feng Wu 3. Chapter 1890 Clever Feng Wu 3. If she hadn't found the ghosts hidden in the back room earlier, and if she hadn't had the Ghost King seal that could order the ghosts around, she would have been killed by now. Go, go, go. While Ranmil was trapped, Feng Wu ran away as fast as she could. Sapphiro noticed as well, but she was also surrounded by the naked ghosts, and didn't have the energy to stop Feng Wu. Disappear! All of you! Ranmil's face turned livid, and she was forced to use a skill that she had been hiding from everyone else. She activated the purifying skill, and the entire room seemed to be covered with snow. When the white light dissipated, the ghosts had all disappeared, and Feng Wu was nowhere to be found. Ranmil's face turned very dark. She could see those naked men whenever she closed her eyes. Arg! She felt like throwing up. Feng Wu, I'm going to kill you. Ranmil felt her energy fluctuate inside her, and she had to try very hard to suppress it. I really underestimated her. Ranmil murmured, her voice filled with hatred. You actually know what would work on me. Ranmil's specialty was purification and lifting spells, and she had to avoid all unclean things. If her mind was disturbed, both skills would be affected. Sister, are you alright? Sapphiro only walked out of her hiding corner after all the ghosts disappeared. Ranmil stared at Sapphiro. Her sister was such a good-for-nothing. Sapphiro felt her stomach lurch when she saw the angry look on Ranmil's face. She immediately forced a smile and said, Sister, that Feng Wu is abominable. I can't believe that she got away. Why can she control the ghosts? Why? Ranmil was confused. Cough cough. Sapphiro knew the answer. Because she had seen Feng Wu manipulating ghosts earlier, and she also knew that Feng Wu could do it because she had the Ghost King seal. What frustrated Sapphiro was that Feng Wu had received that seal from her. Every time she thought about it, Sapphiro wanted to slap herself. What do you know? Ranmil stared at her sister. When Feng Sun and the others were around, Ranmil was very gentle toward her sister. Since the two of them were alone, there was no need for her to pretend anymore. Huh? What? Sapphiro didn't like Feng Wu, but she didn't like Ranmil either. Ranmil would definitely kill her if she told her that she had given Feng Wu the seal by mistake. No, she couldn't tell her sister. That's so strange. Feng Wu is only a mediocre cultivator. How can she control those ghosts? Sapphiro sighed. Useless. Ranmil threw a dirty look at her sister and ignored her completely. In fact, if Ranmil had paid a little more attention to Sapphiro. Chapter 1891 Clever Feng Wu 4. Chapter 1891 Clever Feng Wu 4. If Ranmil knew from the beginning that Feng Wu had the Ghost King seal, Feng Wu would have much less of a chance at obtaining the seed of the spirit source. When Ranmil wasn't looking, Feng Wu slipped out the back door as soon as she could. Go, go, go. Where do you think you're going? Ranmil ran out of the room and chased after Feng Wu. Feng Wu ran from one room to the next. When she reached a long corridor, she looked over her shoulder and saw that Ranmil was only 1 kilometer away. Ranmil could cover that distance in no time. Thump! Feng Wu pushed a random door open. She hoped that she was lucky enough to find some tough ghosts. Once more, luck seemed to be on her side. Because when she pushed the door open, she found a room full of ghosts, all wearing black armor and holding long sabers. They stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu was elated. These ghosts seemed very well trained, and would be more than enough to stop Ranmil. While she studied the ghost warriors, they looked back at her with emotionless faces. Feng Wu grinned, took out the seal, and started stamping the warriors. She had become quite good at it. Those she stamped should follow her orders. However, when Feng Wu stamped the first warrior, He only looked up and gave Feng Wu a bewildered look. The second warrior also stared at Feng Wu in bewilderment when she stamped him, as if he was looking at an idiot. Feng Wu was going to stamp them all, when her stomach lurched. Something wasn't right. She suddenly stood still, stared at a warrior, and ordered him in her mind. "You hit your own head." The warrior stood where he was and gave Feng Wu a strange look. "Feng Wu." She looked from the Ghost King seal to the ghosts, and wondered why they wouldn't follow her orders. "Why won't you follow my orders? Doesn't my Ghost King seal work on you?" Confused, Feng Wu scratched her head. "Are you stupid?" the warrior in the middle asked coldly. Feng Wu noticed that he wore the armor of a general, while the others were dressed like common soldiers. Feng Wu stared at him. The general found Feng Wu's question idiotic. "Poor human. Since you're going to die, I'll tell you." Feng Wu didn't know what to say. The general said, "Your Ghost King seal can only order the White Legion around. We're the Black Robe Legion." Feng Wu. White Legion and Black Robe Legion. She looked down at her Ghost King seal, and saw that the ghost was right. Only the White Fairy's side had lit up, indicating that Feng Wu had gained her recognition, whereas the other two sides remained dark. That was to say, it wouldn't work on the other two legions. What now? Feng Wu felt rather awkward. She wondered if she should back out of the room now. Just then there was a loud bang. Chapter 1892, Clever Feng Wu 5. Chapter 1892, Clever Feng Wu 5. Feng Wu had closed the thick bronze door behind her, but Ranmil kicked it open. The door flew off and fell at the general's feet. The general was furious. Here was the greatest defense. Ranmil's angry face appeared in the empty doorway. But she was obviously dazed by the ghost warriors. Without thinking, she immediately thought that they were Feng Wu's soldiers. Feng Wu reacted quickly. "Help!" She rushed toward Ranmil. Ranmil was stunned. She had no idea what Feng Wu was playing at. However, before she could react, the legion had surrounded her. Thump, thump, thump. They immediately broke into a fight. With how clever Ranmil was, she immediately saw that Feng Wu was using her. "Feng Wu, stop right there." She wanted to catch Feng Wu right there and then. But that wasn't going to happen. As soon as Feng Wu saw that things were getting out of control, she hid in a corner. Thump, thump, thump. It was a fierce battle. Ranmil tried to reason with the general, but the general already felt offended and saw her as an enemy. There was no way that he would let her go. All hell broke loose. A mist of blood filled the room. While they were fighting, what was Feng Wu doing? Her first reaction was to run as far away from Ranmil as possible, but Ranmil had blocked the front door, and going there would only get Feng Wu killed. Behind her were only solid walls. Luckily, the ghost warriors all jumped at Ranmil and ignored Feng Wu. Feng Wu curled up in a corner and racked her brain. Purify! Ranmil activated her skill again. It was very effective. Once she activated it, dozens of ghost warriors were annihilated. But the skill had its shortcoming as well. It cost a lot of spiritual essence. After activating the skill twice, her face became very pale, and she only had less than half of her spiritual essence left. But there were still a lot of ghost warriors. As soon as Ranmil stopped, they closed in like a swarm of ants. Therefore, Ranmil had to keep using the skill. Purify, purify, purify. Her face turned even paler as she used the skill. Feng Wu was secretly elated to see Ranmil being drained of spiritual essence. But as the ghost warriors fell, she also felt uneasy. She had to find a way out. She turned her attention to the solid walls and activated her spiritual essence. Suddenly, ding! She felt a pain in her head, as if someone had just punched her. Here. She found a strange spot on the wall. It looked and felt the same as everywhere else, but there was something different. She tried to press down, but she realized that she didn't have enough spiritual essence to do so. That was to say, although she had found the door, she couldn't get in because she wasn't a spiritual lord yet. There's treasure on the other side. Little Phoenix suddenly stuck out its head and said. Chapter 1893, Clever Feng Wu 6. Chapter 1893, Clever Feng Wu 6. Feng Wu could faintly sense that as well, so she spread out her earth attribute, and it really is the guardian of the earth. Feng Wu grabbed Little Phoenix in excitement. The white fairy said that it was hidden here, and she was right. I almost missed it. Feng Wu knew that the guardian of the earth was on the other side, and she had found the secret entrance, but because she hadn't become a spiritual lord yet, she couldn't open it. That was awkward. She looked at Little Phoenix. Little Phoenix shrugged. I'm not a spiritual lord either. After that, Feng Wu and Little Phoenix looked at Ranmil in unison. The general of the Black Robe Legion was a ghost, so he didn't count. That meant that Ranmil was the only one here who could open that door. How likely would it be for Ranmil to agree to open that door for her? Feng Wu shook her head inwardly. Ranmil would definitely kill her first. Therefore, she had to trick her. You want to kill me because of Jun Linyuan? Well, I'm sorry to inform you, but I'm the one Jun Linyuan loves. No matter how hard you try, he's never going to fall in love with you. Feng Wu knew what Ranmil cared about most, so she used it to hurt her. And she was right. As soon as she said that, Ranmil, who had been purifying the ghosts, immediately shifted her attention to Feng Wu. But the ghost general stopped her from getting closer. Ranmil struck out forcibly in Feng Wu's direction. It contained all her strength. The entire room seemed to shake with it. How arrogant. The ghost general struck down at Ranmil's shoulder. Ranmil flew backward. Meanwhile, Feng Wu watched as Ranmil struck in her direction and dodged at the last moment. She had calculated the angle and the position. Therefore, when Ranmil's strike arrived, Feng Wu dodged in time, and Ranmil's strike landed where Feng Wu had been standing. It hit the hidden door dead on. Crack. With Ranmil's help, the door that Feng Wu couldn't open because of her cultivation level slowly slid open. Ranmil knocked into the wall and fell to the ground. The pain made her break into a cold sweat. Meanwhile, Feng Wu waved happily at Ranmil. Thank you for opening the door for me. After that, Feng Wu disappeared behind the door. Ranmil's mouth fell open. That's the spiritual lord's door. Only a spiritual lord can open it. The general was quite querulous. Seeing that Ranmil was stunned, he explained to her what had happened. Only a spiritual lord. Ranmil stared at her right hand. That was to say, Feng Wu couldn't get in on her own. But because of that strike, Ranmil had opened the door for her. To Ranmil's frustration, she could sense the treasure on the other side. Ranmil was much more sensitive to treasures than normal people. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to guess the correct lattices all the time back in the treasure hall. Chapter 1894, Clever Feng Wu 7. Chapter 1894, Clever Feng Wu 7. That's, Ranmil's stomach lurched. That familiar energy had to be from the guardian of the earth. Her master had given her specific instructions, and even gave her a map of this place. The only requirement was that she had to find the guardian of the earth. It was a technique with group attack skills. And it was the dream skill of all mages of the earth attribute. Ah! Without thinking, Ranmil rushed toward the open door. But the ghost general reached out and grabbed her arm. Ranmil yelled at him. Are you deaf? Didn't you hear? I'm not on the same team as that woman. She's my enemy. The general still wouldn't let her go. Ranmil stomped her foot in frustration. That was the guardian of the earth that she had been dreaming of. The first chapter had been taken, so she had to get the second chapter. Otherwise, her master would kill her. But no matter how hard she struggled, the general just wouldn't let go. Hey, that woman is going after the treasure. Aren't you worried? Ranmil tried to persuade him. The general shook his head. Someone will take it. It makes no difference who it is. Ranmil said, Let go of me then. I'll take it. The general said decisively, No. Ranmil asked, Why not? The general said, Fight me. Ranmil asked, Can I fight you after I take the treasure? The general frowned and wouldn't be persuaded. You fight me. Ranmil said, Go fight Feng Wu. I have things to do. The general snorted. No. You fight me. Ranmil tried to shake off his hand. I don't have the time. I won't fight you. Let go of me. When Ranmil finally got rid of the general, she rushed toward the door. But the general then caught her by the waist. Ranmil shouted, Let go of me. The general threw Ranmil to the ground, but Ranmil jumped to her feet and tried to dash off again. But the general caught Ranmil in time and threw her back down. This series of actions was repeated several times, until Ranmil became desperate. Her spiritual essence was drained, and her forehead was covered with sweat. Why are you after me? Why not Feng Wu? Why? This was so unfair. The general actually answered her. She's too weak. Your capability is just about right. I can kill her with one strike. Where's the fun in that? But you're different. Although you're slightly weaker than me, you're good enough to fight me. Ranmil didn't know what to say. Was it her fault that she was too capable? After that, the general stopped playing nice. He dragged Ranmil back and smashed her to the ground. Again. Ranmil didn't know what to say. Was this general a retard? Did he think that she was playing with him? Why would he ignore Feng Wu, but throw her around like a punching bag? Chapter 1895. Master the Skill 1. Chapter 1895. Master the Skill 1. Ranmil thought that she was going to explode. But the general was more capable than her, and unbelievably stubborn. There was nothing she could do but get thrown around like a sandbag. Sapphira was originally behind Ranmil, but when she saw how miserable Ranmil's situation was, she ditched her without hesitation. Feng Wu found the second chapter of The Guardian of the Earth. Seeing the drawings on the wall, Feng Wu sat down without hesitation and studied them. She then practiced each one in turn. The fourth stance of The Guardian of the Earth. Ground control plus dazzle. The fifth stance. Ground control plus speed reduction. The sixth stance. Ground control plus freeze. The more Feng Wu learned, the more astonished she was. This was such an amazing technique. She only needed to activate ground control when facing her enemies. With the dazzling, freezing, and speed reduction effects, no one of her level would be able to defeat her. Feng Wu was so excited that she almost jumped to her feet. She had to fight back her excitement, and went on practicing. She knew very well that the ghost general wouldn't be able to delay Ranmil for very long. That was because the general was as inflexible as a machine, while Ranmil was very clever. After she got over her initial rage, she would be able to calm down and find a way to defeat the general. Feng Wu herself had figured out at least 2 ways to do that. Therefore, she had to work on the 3 stances as quickly as she could. Once she was done, the paintings on the wall would disappear. Even if Ranmil broke in then, she wouldn't be able to learn anything. Calm down, calm down. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu sat down cross-legged, and was soon in cultivation mode. Spiritual essence ran rampant inside her. Ground control plus dazzle. Done. Ground control plus speed reduction. Done. Ground control plus freeze. Done. That was so fast. Even Feng Wu herself was amazed. She couldn't help but check her dantian. Her dantian was shining brightly. Not only was it more solid than before, it was also several times larger. But it was almost empty. Feng Wu frowned. Earlier, the white fairy told her that to make fast progress, after getting the seed of the spirit source, she had to be prepared first. First of all, her dantian had to be big and solid enough, which she had achieved. After that, her dantian needed to be filled to the brim with spiritual liquid. After that, she could plant the seed in her dantian once she obtained it. That way, it would grow rapidly. The faster it grew, the more capable she would become. Therefore, Feng Wu knew that her top priority was to replenish her spiritual essence. That could be easily achieved if the white fairy were here. Where was she supposed to find spiritual essence now? The main palace, said Little Phoenix. From what I remember, the formation core of such a place is usually in the main palace, and that's also where the spiritual essence is the densest. Let's go to the main palace then. Feng Wu clenched her fists. I have to fill my dantian. Otherwise, even if I find the seed of the spirit source, I won't be able to make any progress. Plus, She looked at the Ghost King seal in her hand. The white fairy's side is lit up. I need to convince the black robe Ghost King and green scarf Ghost King now. Feng Wu then took out a map. Little Phoenix stared at her. Where did you get that map? Chapter 1896, Master the Skill 2. Chapter 1896, Master the Skill 2. Feng Wu grinned. From Ranmil obviously. The map was derived from the turtle diagram, which Feng Wu had let Feng Sun find in the treasure hall. As it turned out, Feng Sun was a bit too generous. Ranmil barely needed to use any tricks before he handed the map to her. But Feng Wu was much better. If she could give it to Feng Sun, she could take it back as well. Ranmil still had no idea that Feng Wu had taken the map, which Ranmil had swindled from Feng Sun. Feng Wu unfolded the map, which covered the entire tomb area. She focused on the area around Universe Hall. Universe Hall consisted of 9 sections arranged into a 3x3 square. Section 5 at the center was the main one, and the other 8 were subsections. Usually, it's not possible to enter the main hall from a subsection. However, Feng Wu looked at the map and smiled. However, the wall with the Guardian of the Earth drawings is the entrance to the main hall. To enter Section 5, they would have to destroy the second chapter of the Guardian of the Earth. Right at that moment, whoosh, there was the sound of a heavy blow behind them. Oh no, Ranmil had arrived. Cracking ground. Feng Wu activated all her spiritual energy and directed it at the drawings on the wall. The ferocious spiritual energy began to wipe out the drawings. When Ranmil finally got rid of the Ghost General and charged in, she saw that 2/3 of the drawings had been destroyed. The Guardian of the Earth. Seeing this, Ranmil was dazed. She then became furious. She finally realized what had happened and glared at Feng Wu. Die! Ranmil looked like she had lost her mind. She reached out toward Feng Wu. Golden light poured out of her fingertips, and the entire room seemed to stir with it. Shit! Ground control. Dazzle. Speed reduction. Freeze. Feng Wu used all 3 stances. She was much weaker than Ranmil, but those 3 stances were quite effective. Ranmil was taken by surprise and was frozen for a second. And that was enough for Feng Wu. Run! The next moment, Feng Wu broke the wall with the drawings. As expected, there was a long corridor behind it. Feng Wu jumped in and ran down the corridor as fast as she could manage. She could run quite far in 1 second. A second later, Ranmil could move freely again. Seeing the burning drawings and how Feng Wu had disappeared, Ranmil was so angry that blue veins popped on her forehead. Feng Wu! Feng Wu! I underestimated you and gave you the chance to run away. But that won't happen again. Ranmil didn't chase Feng Wu right away, but tried to save the drawings first. But after she put out the fire, only 1/4 of the drawings were left. Moreover, Feng Wu was so cunning. Most people would start a fire at the lower corners, but she started the fire in the center. Chapter 1897, Master the Skill 3. Chapter 1897, Master the Skill 3. Therefore, although there was 1/4 of the drawings left, it contained nothing useful, and most of it was blank. Feng Wu, I'm gonna kill you. Ranmil was so mad that she thought she was going to lose her mind. She had been delayed because she tried to save the drawings, which turned out to be completely useless. Infuriated, she threw all the drawings to the ground. The Guardian of the Earth had been destroyed. What was she supposed to tell her master now? All of a sudden, Ranmil's stomach lurched. Feng Wu, the stances Feng Wu used just then, weren't they from the Guardian of the Earth? That meant Feng Wu. She had learned the technique. The thought made Ranmil want to scream. She had tried everything she could to get the Guardian of the Earth, but all her efforts had gone to waste. Feng Wu, on the other hand, got to walk away with the grand prize. So, Ranmil smirked. Feng Wu, you've learned the Guardian of the Earth, haven't you? You're going to spit it out. Ranmil no longer needed to search for the Guardian of the Earth. All she needed to do was go after Feng Wu. Whoosh! She dashed off. The next second, She had also jumped behind the wall into the corridor. She had read on the map earlier that it was the way to the main hall. But as soon as she entered the corridor, she saw a crossroad. She was baffled. Which direction should she go now? Ranmil wanted to check the map, but when she reached into her chest pocket, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Her head went blank. It wasn't there. This couldn't be happening. She checked her chest pocket, her sleeves, and everywhere else that the map might be, but it wasn't there. Where's my map? She panicked a little. She tried very hard to remember what happened. It had been safely tucked away in her chest pocket, and there was no way she could have lost it. The only possibility was she had fought against Feng Wu. Ranmil didn't know what to say. She finally realized how Feng Wu found that passageway. She had stolen the map. Feng Wu. Ranmil thought that she had overestimated Feng Wu, but now she realized that she had underestimated her. Despite her poor capability, she was able to get herself out of trouble every single time. That Feng Wu was something. By then, Ranmil became even more worried when it came to Feng Wu. After jumping over the wall, Feng Wu followed the map and headed right for the central hall. The central hall had a pretty name. Star River Hall. Whoosh! Feng Wu ripped open a layer of spiritual essence with her bare hands and jumped into Star River Hall. Thump! She was as nimble as a monkey. Who's there? Someone cried out in an angry voice. Feng Wu was shocked when she saw who it was. She stared at the man. The man stared back at her. It was as if all the other people in the hall didn't exist, and these two people were the only ones there. Feng Wu. Zhuo Qingxian. Both saw hatred in each other's eyes. Aren't you dead already? Feng Wu narrowed her eyes when she saw that it was Zhuo Qingxian. Chapter 1898. Master the Skill 4. Chapter 1898. Master the Skill 4. She remembered clearly that she had killed Zhuo Qingxian by stabbing him in the back of his neck. But why was Zhuo Qingxian here now? Zhuo Qingxian stared back at her. You want me dead, don't you? Ha ha ha. Feng Wu, you didn't know that I had a substitute talisman, did you? Zhuo Qingxian stared at Feng Wu. Since you didn't kill me, it's your turn to die. After that, he drew out the long sword from behind him. He then activated his spiritual essence and struck at Feng Wu. Feng Wu felt so frustrated. What a pity. She should have destroyed Zhuo Qingxian's corpse when she had the chance. That way, even with the substitute talisman, he couldn't be resuscitated. That taught Feng Wu a lesson. Rumble. Zhuo Qingxian hated Feng Wu to the bone. Purple light wrapped around his sword, and his spiritual essence surged like a tidal wave. Die! Zhuo Qingxian wouldn't give Feng Wu any chance. He used his most powerful skill right away. Zhuo Qingxian was a spiritual lord, and Feng Wu was only a spiritual elder. There was no way she could withstand him. Feng Wu wanted to flee, but Zhuo Qingxian had obviously expected it. Thus, his sword moved so fast it was like a net had been woven around Feng Wu. Feng Wu was trapped. She frowned. Since she couldn't get away, she had to face him. The chance of her surviving was less than 1%. Ground control. Feng Wu used the 6 dances she had just learned. She spared no effort and activated all her spiritual energy. Fallen Star Swordplay. Phoenix Dance. She was using all the skills she knew. She had to fend him off, or she would be doomed. Thump. 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 While Feng Wu was doing everything she could, Zhuo Qingxian smirked. You're as petty as an ant. Who gave you the courage to face me? Zhuo Qingxian sneered at her. Die! Zhuo Qingxian aimed his sword at Feng Wu's throat and charged at her like a streak of lightning. He was going to kill her with this strike. Crack! Feng Wu's protective shield looked like glass in comparison. The next second it completely shattered. Crack! Her shield was gone. Die now! Zhuo Qingxian guffawed, sending his sword further forward. Feng Wu was immediately under a lot of pressure. She watched as the malicious sword came at her throat. It was getting closer and closer. 3 inches, 2 inches, 1 inch. It was about to cut her skin open, but there was nothing she could do. Haha, how does it feel to be so close to death? Zhuo Qingxian asked in a mocking tone. He felt very proud of himself. If he wanted to kill Feng Wu right away, all he needed to do was push his sword a little further. But now he was enjoying the moment. Just then, whoosh! A sword pierced Zhuo Qingxian from behind. Its speed was unbelievable. Even Zhuo Qingxian didn't have time to react. It was obviously a sword master, because the strike was accurate and fierce. Chapter 1899, Master the Skill 5. Chapter 1899, Master the Skill 5. Zhuo Qingxian turned around and saw a teenager behind him. It was a handsome young man with big bright eyes. The others were used to seeing his smiling face, but the look on his face was very serious now. Feng Sun. Blood poured out of Zhuo Qingxian's mouth. He stared at Feng Sun in disbelief. He had never thought Feng Sun would kill him. How dare he? Zhuo Qingxian wasn't the only one who was shocked. The second prince hadn't seen it coming either. You! Both men cried out in unison. Feng Sun then drew back his sword. My purple sun sword has yet to taste blood, and you just offered yourself to me. Good. Feng Sun stared at Zhuo Qingxian with a murderous look in his eyes. The purple sun was unbelievably sharp, and it pierced Zhuo Qingxian's heart from behind. Once Feng Sun pulled it out, blood covered Zhuo Qingxian's chest. Why are you doing this? He stared at Feng Sun in disbelief. Why do you think? Because you tried to kill Feng Wu, obviously. Feng Sun found the question idiotic. Do you know who she is? Who is she? She's my sister, Feng Sun said coldly. The others only knew him as the lively and easygoing teenager, but when he stopped smiling, he was as intimidating as Jun Linyuan. Aren't you afraid of my family? Zhuo Qingxian pressed a hand to his chest. Feng Sun had planned to kill him from the very beginning. He had made sure that the sword would go through Zhuo Qingxian's heart. Zhuo Qingxian knew that he was going to die. No one could save him now. Feng Sun said decisively, I'll worry about your family later. You wanted to kill Xiao Wu, so I had to kill you first. Zhuo Qingxian held his chest and kept coughing out blood. He couldn't understand it. Feng Wu and Feng Sun weren't real siblings, so why did he do this for Feng Wu? Why would he offend the Zhuo family for her? But he wouldn't know the answer in this lifetime. Just then, two more people charged in through the gap Feng Wu had torn open. It was Ranmil and Sapphiro. Ranmil immediately saw Zhuo Qingxian, who had dropped dead on the ground. Ah! In front of the teenagers, Ranmil put her innocent mask back on. She looked frightened and completely baffled. What happened? Young Master Zhuo. While she was pretending to be frightened, Ranmil didn't stop looking around the place to figure out the current situation. Zhuo Qingxian held a sword in his right hand and had a resentful look on his face. Blood dripped from the purple sun sword in Feng Sun's hand. The blood drops tainted the ground. What more was there to say? Ranmil could tell that Feng Sun had killed Zhuo Qingxian. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes when she saw Ranmil. Ranmil narrowed her eyes as well. They looked like two hunters running into each other in a dark wood, and both had raised their guns. The second prince was confronting Feng Sun, and they could break into a fight at any moment. Just then. Chapter 1900 Chapter 1900 Chapter 1900, Master the Skill 6. They heard steady footsteps coming in their direction. As soon as the teenager showed up, things turned around. Because it was Jun Linyuan. He seemed to carry 1,000 beams of light with him, and was so splendid that everyone else was merely part of the background. He was the one blessed with all merits. Boss Jun. Seeing Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun, who had raised his guard and was combat-ready, immediately switched to his usual mode. He ran toward Jun Linyuan like a happy puppy. Boss Jun. I killed Zhuo Qingxian. He had killed Zhuo Qingxian without giving it much thought. Once his rage subsided, he became a little scared. After all, offending one of the 9 major clans would bring him a lot of trouble. Feng Sun was still wondering what to do when Jun Linyuan showed up like a savior. Boss Jun. Boss Jun. Feng Sun ran toward him and yelled, I killed Zhuo Qingxian. What should I do now? Jun Linyuan wasn't alone. The mysterious steward Feng was with him as usual. As soon as Jun Linyuan stopped moving, Feng took out an armchair out of nowhere and put it behind Jun Linyuan. Once the crown prince sat down, Feng handed him a warm towel. Jun Linyuan took the towel and slowly wiped each finger in turn. His fingers were well proportioned and as fair as white jade. From the very beginning, Jun Linyuan never gave anyone else a look. He ignored them all. But the others had no problem with his demeanor, as if they expected he would be like this. Once the crown prince elegantly wiped his hands clean, he tossed it back to Feng, his face still emotionless. Only then did he look up. He glanced at each face in turn. No one dared to meet his intense gaze. Sapphira wasn't bold enough. Nor was Ranmil. Even the second prince, who was openly against Jun Linyuan, couldn't withstand his gaze. The teenager looked completely unapproachable. How terrifying. Jun Linyuan's arrival made the others completely forget how tense the atmosphere had been earlier. They didn't even dare breathe heavily, let alone speak. You killed him? The crown prince was as proud as the emperor himself. As soon as he spoke, the temperature seemed to drop. Feng Sun had grown up with Jun Linyuan and was used to his aura. As a result, he wasn't affected much. I didn't want to mess with him at first, but he was outrageous. He wanted to kill Xiao Wu. Feng Sun began to tell his boss Jun what happened. If I was 1 second late, Zhuo Qingxian would have cut Xiao Wu's throat. If I hadn't done what I did, Xiao Wu would be a corpse on the ground by now. So boss Jun, didn't I do the right thing? Feng Sun clenched his fists, trying to make it Jun Linyuan's responsibility. Whoosh! All eyes were on Jun Linyuan. They all wanted to hear Jun Linyuan's answer, especially Ranmil. She might seem indifferent to what was going on, but she was actually watching Jun Linyuan carefully. Before Jun Linyuan could speak, the person who came in after him cried out in surprise. Chapter 1901. Chapter 1901. Chapter 1901 Untitled. Wow! It was the seventh prince. He had been fighting on his own after entering this giant tomb. After running into Jun Linyuan, he immediately decided to follow him around. He had remained quiet until he saw Feng Wu. Ah! The seventh prince suddenly jumped out from behind Jun Linyuan, pointed a finger at Feng Wu, and started yelling. He was too excited to utter a coherent sentence. The sight of Jun Linyuan, the seventh prince, gave Feng Wu a headache. Out of all the places, she just had to run into him here. What a disaster. While Feng Wu was troubled by Jun Linyuan's arrival, Jun Linyuan turned to his big brother and shouted, "Brother! Brother! It's her! It's her!" Feng Sun stared at the seventh prince helplessly. What do you mean it's her? What did Xiao Wu do to you? He still didn't realize what was going on, but the clever crown prince did. Jun Linyuan's eyes seemed to turn a shade darker. But Jun Linyuan didn't notice. He pointed at Feng Wu and told Jun Linyuan, "Brother! Brother! She's the woman I'm in love with. She's the only woman I want to marry." Oh no! That was the greatest gossip of all time. All eyes were on Feng Wu. Meanwhile, Feng Lu and her lot were outside the door, and they all rushed in when they heard this. Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun, Xian Yi Jun Linyuan, and the second prince. Feng Wu Sapphiro, Ranmil and Master Ju. Feng Lu Feng Sang Feng Yuran Duga Yamo and Duga Mingxi. Everyone had gathered here in Star River Hall. And what they heard sounded like a thunderclap in their ears, baffling them. What did the seventh prince say? He likes Feng Wu. And she's the only one he wants to marry. Since when does the seventh prince know Feng Wu? Why are they so familiar with each other? Isn't Feng Wu His Royal Highness's bed-warming maid? Isn't His Royal Highness supposed to care about this girl a lot? Everyone was talking at the same time. Ranmil's eyes flickered. Jun Linyuan was completely absorbed in his excitement and couldn't hear what the others were saying. He rushed to Feng Wu's side, took her hands, and went down on one knee. He then asked excitedly, "My goddess, will you marry me?" Everyone was astonished. Sapphiro covered her mouth, fearing that she might scream. How terrifying. So Feng Wu and the seventh prince are a couple. Since this was a great chance to slander Feng Wu, of course they wouldn't miss it. Hence, everyone started making comments. Feng Wu could sense the intense gaze on her. It was so terrifying. It seemed to be tearing her to pieces. Feng Wu's stomach lurched, and she tried to throw off Jun Linyan's hands. Hey, let go of me. But Jun Linyan had finally found his goddess, so of course he wouldn't let her go. Holding Feng Wu's hands, he wanted to pour out his feelings. Chapter 1902 Chapter 1902 Chapter 1902 Untitled. It's all my fault. I'm so sorry. If I knew you were Feng Wu, I would have found you earlier, and you wouldn't have been alone for so long. From now on, I'll protect you and look after you. I won't let anyone pick on you again. So Miss Feng Wu, will you marry me? The look in Jun Linyan's shining eyes was very sincere. A prince of the empire was proposing to her on one knee. Other girls would have gone wild with joy, but Feng Wu. She couldn't get far away enough from the prince. No, I won't. Let go of me now. She tried to pull her hands back. But Jun Linyan simply wouldn't let go. Feng Wu grew very anxious. But why? The prince wouldn't drop the subject and looked rather confused. I'm a prince of the empire, and Jun Linyan's favorite younger brother. I have my own residence. I'm the owner of 3 cities, and I have no wife or concubine. I've searched everywhere for you. Why won't you accept me? The more he spoke, the sadder he became. He was usually an optimistic person, but now, tears filled his big bright eyes. One couldn't help but feel sympathy for him. Feng Wu. She hadn't done a thing, but he made it look like she had abandoned him. Why was this happening? Before she could explain herself, Sapphiro spoke in a seemingly casual tone. Why did I hear that Miss Feng Wu is His Royal Highness's fiancée? Immediately, all eyes were on Sapphiro. Sapphiro blamed it on Feng Sun right away. Pointing at him, she said, It wasn't from me. Young Lord Feng said so earlier. Whoosh! All eyes were on Feng Sun now. Especially Feng Lu and Feng Yuran, who were all staring at Feng Sun. Feng Sun scratched his head. Things were getting a little complicated. He was equally baffled. He had no idea that the goddess Jun Linyan had been searching for was Feng Wu. Young Lord Feng, you must be joking. Wasn't the marriage arrangement cancelled already? Feng Lu stared at Feng Sun nervously. She couldn't accept it. Feng Yuran said, It's true. My younger sister was engaged to His Royal Highness once, but that was annulled later. I guess Your Royal Highness didn't explain it clearly enough, and Sapphiro misunderstood. Sapphiro shook his head. No, it wasn't like that. Young Lord Feng made it very clear that Feng Wu and His Royal Highness are still engaged. Young Lord Feng, am I right? Feng Sun grew impatient at their bickering. No, the engagement is still valid and little Feng Wu is still Boss Jun's fiancé. What? You have a problem with that? Those words astonished everyone. Even Feng Wu herself was shocked. She threw a dirty look at Feng Sun. Don't be ridiculous. Feng Sun patted her on the shoulder and told her the truth. The two of you are still engaged. Feng Wu said, No, we're not. Feng Sun said, Then tell me this. Did you retrieve the token your family gave His Royal Highness? Chapter 1903 Chapter 1903 Chapter 1903, Untitled. Feng Wu stared at Jun Linyuan. Didn't you say that you can't remember where you put the dark jade? So the crown prince didn't return the token to the Feng clan. Immediately, all eyes were on the crown prince. Jun Linyuan glanced around the room with a ferocious look in his eyes. As everyone watched expectantly, the crown prince rose to his feet. So, did His Royal Highness cancel the engagement or not? Everyone was eager to hear the answer. Feng stood there deferentially with his head lowered as usual, but deep down, he was feeling anxious for Jun Linyuan. Your Royal Highness, this is a great opportunity to prove your love for her. Use it well. Jun Linyuan steadily walked up to Feng Wu, stopped, and looked down at her. The look in his eyes was cold and detached, and his elegant features looked like they had been sculpted. The majestic air he gave off was so intimidating that the others didn't dare meet his gaze. But he was still unbelievably attractive. Feng Wu opened her mouth, but didn't know what to say. She really wanted to know if the engagement had been annulled. The others were all waiting for the answer. The seventh prince was very perplexed. However, just then, the crown prince cast a stern look at Feng Wu and said, "You've disappointed me." He left after that. He looked so proud and unapproachable from behind that no one dared to make a sound. They could only watch him leave. Gosh. Feng watched in resignation as his young master walked away. His Royal Highness. He should have used this opportunity to express his feelings for the girl, not walk away. By doing so, he was handing the opportunity to his brother. But Feng couldn't say anything, because his young master was too proud. He would do exactly the opposite. Feng gave Feng Wu an apologetic look, and a nod before following Jun Linyuan away. As soon as the two of them left, the room became very noisy. Wow! The pressure Jun Linyuan gave them was incredible. Therefore, as soon as he left, they felt a burden lifted from their shoulders. Sapphira was the first to react. Because she saw Feng Wu as her rival in love, she was naturally hostile toward her. Because of that, she was also the first to attack Feng Wu. Well, someone can stop bragging now. Are you still going to say that the engagement isn't cancelled? His Royal Highness doesn't seem to agree with you. Feng Lu let out a breath of relief. I knew it. The engagement was no longer valid 5 years ago. There's no way that Feng Wu is still the crown prince's future wife. You guys should have believed me. Feng Wu frowned. Was the engagement cancelled or not? She hoped it was cancelled. Otherwise, she would have to find a way to do it. It would bring her a lot of trouble. Just then, she heard a beep in her head. Trial 7. During the winter hunt, make Jun Linyuan 100% angry accomplished. What? Feng Wu wanted to say something, but the message almost made her jump. What the heck? She recalled the 12 trials of love. Chapter 1904. Chapter 1904. Chapter 1904 untitled. She had to finish all the trials, because only then would her beautiful master wake up again. He said last time that he wouldn't wake up for such a short period only this time. Feng Wu had been stuck on the 7th trial, because things hadn't been going well. Because the trial required her to make Jun Linyuan 100% angry, which she had no idea how to achieve. She had tried to set Jun Linyuan off many times, but to her frustration, she was only able to make him a little upset. Soon, not only wouldn't he feel angry, he would also become rather pleased. Feng Wu had been so frustrated. But just then she had achieved that goal. How was that even possible? But the message had to be true. She had completed the 7th trial. What was going on? Nothing really happened. Feng Wu scratched her head and felt utterly confused. Ding! Trial 8. Make Jun Linyuan openly acknowledge your engagement. Feng Wu heard the next message. Her eyes widened as she stared into empty space. Sapphira was standing somewhere ahead of Feng Wu, and was now slandering Feng Wu in front of the others. The look in Feng Wu's eyes made her stomach lurch, and she almost jumped to her feet. But Feng Wu didn't hear anything Sapphira said, because she was still thinking about the message. Trial 8. Make Jun Linyuan openly acknowledge your engagement. By openly acknowledge your engagement, that meant the engagement actually still existed. What? Feng Wu was dumbfounded. Xiao Wu? Xiao Wu. Seeing how baffled Feng Wu looked, Feng Sun shook her by the shoulder. Feng Wu stared at him, as if she had just been struck by lightning. She asked in a dumbfounded voice, Tell me, am I really still engaged to him? Feng Sun nodded happily. That's right. Xiao Wu, don't be afraid. You're the future wife of the crown prince. So what if I've killed Zhuo Qingxian? No one will dare touch you. He raised his eyebrows at Feng Wu like a little show-off. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. She didn't like the sound of that at all. I don't believe it. Jun Linyuan finally recovered from his astonishment, and he yelled angrily, I don't believe it. Feng Wu almost rolled her eyes at him. Please mind your own business. She wished that the 7th prince would just go away. But the 7th prince didn't seem to hear her. Holding Feng Wu by her shoulders, he said solemnly, My brother doesn't like you. He's fond of Zhuo Qingwan. Xiao Wu, don't worry. I'll make the engagement go away. Wait for me. He dashed off after that. He was going to reason with his brother. Wow! Feng Sun had almost convinced Feng Lu and the others, but Jun Lingyun's words reminded them of something. The girl His Royal Highness liked was Zhuo Qinghuan, the genius teenage girl. The royal family would also choose her, the sacred lady of the Firmament Palace. Chapter 1905, Chapter 1905. Chapter 1905, Untitled. Feng Wu, you're delusional. A bed-warming maid is as far as you can go. His Royal Highness's future wife? You're nothing compared with Zhuo Qinghuan. Feng Wu rolled her eyes. I never wanted to marry him, okay? Heh. No other girl in the room would believe her. In fact, no one in the empire would. Feng Wu, do you know what level Zhuo Qinghuan is at now? I received the information just before I entered this place. Dugu Yamo stared at Feng Wu with a ferocious look in her eyes. She's reached the peak of the spiritual lord stage. Feng Lu's eyes widened. A peak spiritual lord? Then she's as capable as Master Ju. Dugu Yamo smirked. I'm afraid she's even better than Master Ju, Feng Lu said. Well, Feng Wu is even further below Miss Zhuo then. Dugu Yamo gave Feng Wu a contemptuous glance. She's not just far below Qinghuan. She's not even worthy enough to clean Qinghuan's shoes. That's enough, Feng Sun snapped. I'll hit a woman when I need to. Say one more nasty thing about Xiao Wu, and I'll choke you to death. You. Dugu Yamo glared at him. Feng Sun smirked. I've killed Zhuo Qingxian. Do you think I'll think twice before killing you? You. Dugu Yamo was still angry, but she didn't dare offend Feng Sun anymore. You're nuts. Dugu Yamo clenched her fists. Glancing at Zhuo Qingxian's corpse on the ground, she snorted. Just wait and see. I hear that Qinghuan is coming back soon. I can't wait to see you tell her what you did. Zhuo Qinghuan is coming back? Feng Sang, who had been silent this whole time, suddenly asked. Yes, said Dugu Yamo proudly. As far as I know, Qinghuan has come out of seclusion and is traveling around to train herself. In less than 6 months, she'll be back at the imperial capital. Why? Feng Sang asked. Why 6 months? Because, Dugu Yamo suddenly smiled. It's a secret. Since she wouldn't tell them, the others found it inappropriate to ask, despite their curiosity. After that, Dugu Yamo said to Feng Wu in a mocking tone. When she gets back, you'll see how petty you are. Qinghuan will make you ashamed of yourself. Umph. Feng Wu frowned. She didn't care about Dugu Yamo, so her words didn't affect her, but had Zhuo Qinghuan reached the peak of the spiritual lord stage already? It seemed that Zhuo Qinghuan was making equally rapid progress. And she was going to be back in 6 months. Feng Wu clenched her fists in her sleeves and was desperate to become stronger. It was as if her blood was boiling. One day, she would defeat Zhuo Qinghuan, her archenemy, in front of everyone. Xiao Wu, Feng Sun was concerned. Are you all right? Feng Wu nodded. You look tired. He then lent Feng Wu a hand. Feng Wu was speechless. After separating from the White Fairy, she fought almost to death against Zhuo Qingxian, got chased around by Master Ju and Sapphiro, and had almost been killed by the revived Zhuo Qingxian. Chapter 1906, Chapter 1906. Chapter 1906, Untitled. Then there was the 7th prince, and Jun Linyuan was angry at her for no reason. Feng Wu felt that she had just had the most unlucky day. Everyone was turning against her when she didn't do anything. I'm fine. Feng Wu barely had any strength left to speak. She felt drained both mentally and physically. Feng Sun patted her on the shoulder. A short distance away, Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo were whispering together. She must have gotten scared when she heard that Qinghuan is coming back. Feng Lu said, of course she's scared. When Sister Qinghuan comes back, she'll be nothing. Ha! She can't be arrogant for long. I hope Sister Qinghuan comes back soon. Feng Sun wanted to smack them. But the whispers disappeared as soon as he turned around. Feng Sun was rendered speechless. Talk about Xiao Wu behind her back again, and I'll use my purple sun sword on you. Feng Sun then struck at a statue in front of him. The statue was sliced into half and fell apart. Feng Lu was speechless. So was Dugu Yamo. They lowered their heads and ground their teeth, but didn't dare utter another word. Humph, Feng Sun snorted. What a bunch of bullies. Let's go. I don't want to see them. Feng Sun was going to take Feng Wu away, but at that moment, crunch, the open door of the hall made a strange sound. Everyone turned their heads involuntarily. The bronze door closed at a tremendous speed. Shit! Feng Sun tried to make a run for it with Feng Wu, but he was too late. Thump! The door slammed shut when he was almost at the doorway. It nearly caught his purple sun sword. What's going on? Feng Sun jabbed the door with his sword in frustration. It might look like a normal bronze door, but when Feng Sun poked his sword at it, he finally realized how solid it was. Why did it close so suddenly? Did someone trigger it? Feng Wu frowned. Look at that statue's face. It wasn't smiling like that, was it? The second prince cried out. Immediately, everyone looked at the statue that had been sliced into half by Feng Sun. It was true. It had been a statue of a monk with closed eyes and a serious look on its face, but now, its eyes were still closed, but there was a strange smile on its face. That smile is so creepy. He looks so satisfied. What a cunning smile. Everyone read the smile differently, but one thing was for sure. The statue of the monk no longer looked kind at all. What's going on? Why do I feel that the light has gone dark? You're not alone. I feel that it's getting darker too. Hey, do you feel that the temperature is dropping? It's not just that. The coldness is seeping into my bones. I feel a chill going down my spine. My legs are going to give way. Oh God. What's happening? What have we run into? A lot of people gave Feng Sun accusing looks. If he hadn't damaged the statue, they wouldn't be trapped here. Chapter 1907. Chapter 1907 untitled. But because of how intimidating Feng Sun had been earlier, no one dared to accuse him out loud. Feng Sun was confused as well. If Jun Linyuan had been here, he could simply do whatever Boss Jun told him to do. But Jun Linyuan wasn't here, so Feng Sun was on his own. Xiao Wu, don't be afraid. I'm here for you. Feng Sun patted his chest. I'll protect you. Don't worry. Feng Wu sighed inwardly. Somehow, Feng Sun never brought her any good luck. By then, it was so dark that they couldn't even see their fingers in front of their faces. Feng Sun held Feng Wu's hand, for fear of losing her. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. What are you doing? Feng Wu then realized that a rope had been tied around her waist, and she turned to Feng Sun in confusion. Feng Sun said happily, I don't want to lose you in the dark, so I tied a rope around your waist, and the other end is tied to my waistband. How's that? Aren't I clever? Feng Wu stared at Feng Sun. Feng Sun's big eyes flickered in the dark as he looked forward to Feng Wu's compliment. Feng Wu said, You're so childish. Feng Sun said, I'm trying to protect you. Feng Wu said, It's so ugly. Untie me. Feng Sun refused. I can't do that. What if someone kills you in the dark? Boss Jun will kill me for that. I can't take the risk. Feng Wu didn't know what to say. The others all laughed inwardly. If His Royal Highness really cared about Feng Wu so much, why would he leave her behind? Just then, they heard someone cry out in the dark. Feng Lu? Feng Lu, is that you? What happened? Someone grabbed my foot. Feng Lu shrieked. I can't kick it away. It's pulling my skirt. Help. Just then, someone else near Feng Lu screamed as well. It ate my shoe and is now biting my foot. Help. That was Dugi Yamo. Screams filled the hall, and nearly everyone was panic-stricken. Feng Wu frowned. She could tell that someone was deliberately trying to scare them. That was because only the girls were screaming. Is it that bad? Why hasn't anyone grabbed or bitten me yet? Are they faking it? Feng Sun murmured. Feng Wu shook her head. No, they're not. What? Feng Sun was bewildered. Feng Wu said, They haven't attacked you, right? Feng Sun said, That's right. Feng Wu said, If I've guessed correctly, they're only targeting the girls. Feng Sun blinked. Targeting the girls? Why? Feng Wu scratched her head helplessly. I think they're all male ghosts. You can call them lewd ghosts. Feng Sun said, seriously? There are such ghosts in this place? I didn't see any mention of them in the historical records. Feng Wu wondered if she should tell Feng Sun that she had used this trick on Ranmil earlier, and they had learned it from her. It was so hard to admit it. Chapter 1908 Attack. Chapter 1908 Attack. With a wave of her hand, little balls of fire appeared in Feng Wu's palms and floated into the air. They immediately lit up the pitch-black hall, and everyone could see around them. Ah! Someone screamed even louder. Feng Lu yelled, Arg! Ghosts! Ghosts! A middle-aged ghost was behind her and was licking her ear with its long, sticky tongue. Ah! Feng Lu shook from head to toe. She jumped around in fear, scared out of her wits. How petty! Ranmil smirked and took out a handful of soybeans. Die! Whoosh! When she threw out the soybeans, the ghost screamed. Each bean had hit a ghost. Moreover, Ranmil had aimed specifically at their noses. When a bean shot into a ghost's nostril, the ghost froze on the spot before it turned into smoke. Their nostrils were their weakest spot. Whoosh! Ranmil went on hitting the ghosts with her soybeans, and there were a lot more beans than ghosts. Thus, 3 minutes later, Ranmil single-handedly killed all the ghosts. Wow! Dugu Yamo was the first to react, and she looked at Ranmil in admiration. Princess Ranmil, you're awesome. We would be in so much trouble if you weren't with us. Feng Lu finally quieted down and began to thank Ranmil repeatedly as well. Ranmil smiled good-naturedly and didn't put on any airs. Feng Lu liked her even more. Princess, you're so awesome. None of your beans missed its target. By the way, Princess Ranmil, how did you know where to hit them? Hearing that question, everyone turned to look at Ranmil. Ranmil smiled and glanced at Feng Wu, apparently very pleased with herself. How did she know? Ranmil said casually. Actually, I need to thank Princess Feng Wu for that. Why? Dugu Yamo and Feng Lu asked in unison. Ranmil said in a seemingly light-hearted tone. Princess Feng Wu played a trick on me earlier and had some lewd ghosts come after me. I almost couldn't get out. Luckily, I was able to figure it out at the last moment. Otherwise, although her tone was quite casual, the information she revealed was shocking. What? Feng Wu played that trick on you? It wasn't just a trick. She tried to kill you. Those lewd ghosts are so disgusting, and you were surrounded by them. Gosh, Feng Wu is so evil. I'm so glad you figured it out in the end. Just imagine what would happen if you didn't. Feng Wu, you did it on purpose, didn't you? Feng Wu, what did you try to do to Princess Ranmil? Chapter 1909, Offense is the Best Defense. Chapter 1909, Offense is the Best Defense. After Ranmil saved Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo, the two girls became her loyal fans. They hadn't taken Ranmil's side at first, but they disliked Feng Wu so much, and not only was Ranmil awesome, she was Feng Wu's enemy as well. Since the enemy's enemy was a friend, Dugu Yamo and Feng Lu immediately took Ranmil's side. Feng Wu said with a half-smile, So, why did I use such a trick on you? Princess Ranmil, aren't you going to tell the whole story? The others had expected Feng Wu to deny it, but she admitted it right away. Feng Lu stared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu, you admitted it. You admitted that you had evil intentions toward Princess Ranmil. You're so mean. Dugu Yamo pointed at Feng Wu as well. You're such a horrible person. How could you do such a thing? Do you even have a heart? Feng Wu acted as if Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo weren't there. Her gaze was fixed on Ranmil. Ranmil was very good at pretending to be something she wasn't. And of course she wasn't going to show her real self now. Tears welled up in her clear, bright eyes, and she spoke in a pitiful tone. That's also what I wanted to ask. Princess Feng Wu, why did you do that to me? That accusation immediately put Feng Wu in a very disadvantageous position. The second prince played with his fan and watched this with a half-smile on his face. Things were getting very interesting. He wanted to see how Feng Wu would get herself out of this. Ranmil asked in an aggrieved voice. Princess Feng Wu, do you want to kill me just because I complimented His Royal Highness? What? Just because Ranmil complimented His Royal Highness? Ranmil sobbed, and she looked as lovely as a fawn. She then said, but His Royal Highness is so talented and there's no one else like him. Isn't it normal for me to compliment him? Feng Lu and the others all nodded. That's right. It would be very strange if someone doesn't compliment His Royal Highness. Ranmil pointed at Feng Wu and said, I know young Lord Feng has said that you're the Crown Prince's future wife and the future Empress of the Empire. Can't you even tolerate other people's compliments? Ranmil's crying face already made the others feel sympathetic toward her. Since she had saved them just then, they were naturally all on her side. Feng Lu smirked and said, Princess Ranmil, you've only pointed out half of it. The others all turned to look at her. Feng Lu stared at Feng Wu with a malicious look in her eyes. Although you only complimented His Royal Highness, she already considers you her love rival. You're more prestigious and capable than her, and you're from a powerful sect. You also have a more pleasant personality. In a word, you're better than her in every way. Of course she's jealous of you. She's worried that you'll win His Royal Highness's heart, which is why she tried to kill you. That was her motive. Feng Wu, I'm right, aren't I? All eyes were on Feng Wu now. Chapter 1910, Feng Wu's Attack. Chapter 1910, Feng Wu's Attack. How is Feng Wu going to answer all those questions? Feng Wu felt like screaming. She really didn't have feelings for Jun Linyuan. But why did everyone think that she was so in love with him that she would kill Ranmil for it? Feng Wu met Feng Lu's eyes. No, that's not true. Feng Lu smirked. I knew you would say that, but Feng Wu, we all know you too well. Feng Wu heaved a sigh. These people just wouldn't listen to her. However, Ranmil had been attacking her non-stop, and even used Feng Lu to shift public opinion to her side. Meanwhile, Ranmil herself was playing the ingenue. Feng Wu decided that she had had enough. She suddenly grinned at Ranmil. Offense was the best defense. So Feng Wu made her move. The questions didn't seem to bother her at all. She smiled at Ranmil and asked, Princess Ranmil, according to you, you only complimented His Royal Highness, correct? Ranmil studied Feng Wu. She was rather impressed. She had almost cornered Feng Wu, but she was still able to retort. She's so level-headed. I have to be more careful around her, thought Ranmil. Ranmil became more alarmed, but she was still weeping when she said, Yes, that was all I did. Why did you make such a big deal over it? Feng Wu looked around the room. Feng Lu, Duguyamo, and Sapphiro were all fond of Jun Linyuan, so. Princess Ranmil, aren't you fond of His Royal Highness? Yes. Offense was the best defense. Feng Wu attacked, aiming at Ranmil's soft spot. Ranmil was dumbfounded. She didn't see that coming. Feng Wu was using Ranmil's trick against her. Awesome. Whoosh. Feng Lu and the others all turned to look at Ranmil. Biting her lower lip, Ranmil wanted to smack Feng Wu. Feng Wu smiled at Ranmil and repeated her question. So, Princess Ranmil, are you not fond of Jun Linyuan at all? Have you never had a crush on the most talented teenager? Tell me, yes or no? Feng Wu pressed. Ranmil clenched her fists. Right now all eyes were on her. If she said no, Feng Wu would definitely force her to swear it. That way, she wouldn't have any chance in the future. But if she said yes, she would be contradicting herself. She had just accused Feng Wu of being unreasonably jealous. But what if she had a reason to be jealous? Feng Wu's question put Ranmil in a very difficult position. The second prince was genuinely amazed. That was awesome. Feng Wu had turned things around with just one question. Not only had she cornered Ranmil, there was also a high chance that she could shatter Ranmil's mask. How incredible! Feng Wu couldn't care less about the second prince. She kept her gaze on Ranmil. Princess Ranmil, you're not in love with His Royal Highness, are you? Feng Lu frowned. Chapter 1911, Zhuo Qinghuan's Match. Chapter 1911, Zhuo Qinghuan's Match. From the very start, Ranmil had pretended to be someone who kept her distance from Jun Linyuan. If she admitted that she was fond of Jun Linyuan now, it would make her a hypocrite, and the others would know that she had been acting the whole time. No, I'm not, Ranmil insisted. His Royal Highness is indeed a talented person, but he's not the only man in the world. Why must I be in love with him? Whereas you, Fengwu, are jealous of everyone when you may not be His Royal Highness's future wife after all. Ranmil wanted to change the subject, but Fengwu smiled at her. Are you really not in love with His Royal Highness? Or are you just saying it? I'm not in love with him. Oh, really? In that case, how about you make an oath? Swear that you'll never be in love with Jun Linyuan, and if you marry him one day, you and the entire Sinol grassland will be annihilated by heavenly thunder. There. Make that oath now. Ranmil glared at Fengwu. Why should I? Fengwu said. Aren't you trying to prove that you're not fond of Jun Linyuan? Didn't you just accuse me of being unreasonably jealous? Make that oath, and I'll admit that I was unreasonably jealous. How about that? Ranmil glared at Fengwu. Fengwu glared back at her. It seemed that a battle was going to start at any moment. Just then, crack. The fireballs released by Fengwu were suddenly extinguished. The hall became pitch dark once more. Everyone had been watching the bickering between Fengwu and Ranmil, and many of them panicked when the sudden darkness fell upon them. What's going on? What now? I don't want to see those lewd ghosts anymore. Fengwu and Duguyama were very nervous. Ranmil let out a breath of relief. Fengwu might seem weak, but when she became serious, she could be very frightening. Clap, clap, clap. They heard someone clapping. Someone said in a teasing tone, Not bad. Not bad at all. That was very interesting. The mysterious voice came from above them, but it seemed to resound in their heads as well. Who's there? Who on earth are you? Come out. Stop trying to scare us. Everyone was nervous, alarmed, and a little panic-stricken. Ha ha ha. Who am I? A giant face suddenly emerged from the high ceiling above their heads. It was so big that it almost covered the entire ceiling. Ah! Everyone jumped. Ranmil cried out. Are you the legendary Black Robe Ghost King? The Black Robe Ghost King? He's one of the 3 Ghost Kings, isn't he? It's said that one can get the seed of the spirit source if they receive the recognition of all 3 Ghost Kings. Are you one of them? Immediately, everyone's eyes lit up. The seed of the spirit source. It could raise one's cultivation level by an entire stage. What did that mean? Take Fengwu for example. She was a level 7 spiritual elder now. If she obtained the seed, she could rise directly to a level 7 spiritual lord. Once that happened, she would be almost at the same level as Zhuqingwan. Chapter 1912 Black Robe Ghost King. Chapter 1912 Black Robe Ghost King. Fengwu clenched her fists. She had to have the seed of the spirit source. But she wasn't the only one. Ranmil wanted it as well. Ha ha ha. You all want the seed of the spirit source, but it's not that easy. The giant face on the ceiling grinned maliciously. Everyone clenched their fists and looked up at the Black Robe Ghost King. However, the seed of the spirit source does exist, and all of you have a chance to get it. After a pause, the Ghost King glanced at each of them in turn. The look in his eyes was cold, intimidating and grim. Somehow, when the Ghost King looked at Fengwu, she felt as if a giant hand had gripped her heart and squeezed. She could clearly sense the hostility the Ghost King held toward her. Oh no! Fengwu had a bad feeling. She was right. The Ghost King smirked and said, It won't be an easy thing to do, because you'll need the recognition of all 3 Ghost Kings. Otherwise, you'll never find it, no matter how capable you are. And I'm the Black Robe Ghost King, one of the 3 Ghost Kings. If you want my recognition, it's very easy. There are 7 levels in Universe Hall, and this is the first level. What you need to do is climb to the 7th floor. Someone mumbled in the crowd. Isn't that a very easy thing to do? Hearing that, ha ha ha, you fool, the Black Robe Ghost King smirked. You'll see once you start climbing. It's anything but easy. Really? The second prince looked to the right, where a staircase led to the upper floors. Ha ha ha. Just then, the Ghost King smirked, and the sound gave the others the creeps. Involuntarily, everyone turned to look at the Ghost King. The Ghost King looked at each person in turn and suddenly announced, "There are 14 of you here, and that staircase will only allow 7 people to pass." "What do you mean?" Feng Sun recognized the ill intent in those words. He frowned and narrowed his eyes. He was quite sharp at sensing danger. The Ghost King glanced at Feng Sun and grinned. "It means that you'll have a captain, who will be given the right to choose 6 team members." The Ghost King stared at Feng Sun with a look of satisfaction on his face and thought, "Do you think I'll make you turn on each other? No, I'll just show you what it feels like to be abandoned." Wow! Many people panicked when they heard those words. 7 out of 14. That was to say, 7 of them would be eliminated. So, what will happen to the 7 people who aren't picked? Feng Yuan asked, gritting his teeth. All the members of the Feng family were in danger of being eliminated. Because it concerned his own interests, Feng Yuan asked the Ghost King the question despite his fear. Chapter 1913 Luck vs. Survival. Chapter 1913 Luck vs. Survival. That was also what the others wanted to know, so they all nervously looked up at the black-robed Ghost King. What will happen to the ones who aren't picked? Ha ha ha. The Ghost King looked like he had heard something very amusing when he said, "Well, it's very likely that they'll die." Die? Everyone's eyes widened. They had thought that the worst that would happen was that they would lose the chance of finding the seed of the spirit source. But as it turned out, there was a high possibility that they would die. Hey kids, don't panic just yet. I said very likely, which means that there's a chance that you won't die. Despite the intimidating and creepy air the black-robed Ghost King gave off, he somehow also had a coquettish side. But none of them noticed, since death hovered above their heads like a dark cloud, as if it could snatch them up at any moment. What do you mean by very likely? Why are we going to die? What are the rules? What should we do to stay alive? Feng Yuan, Feng Lu, and Duge Yamo all cried out and asked questions. Other Ghost Kings would have gotten impatient by now, but this Ghost King was quite talkative, for he hadn't spoken to anyone in a very long time. The rules are very straightforward, the Ghost King said cheerfully. The captain will choose 6 people to form a 7-member team. They can then climb those stairs, clear the obstacles, and reach the destination. Of course, they'll have to work hard to get through the trials. The Ghost King blinked, which looked rather eerie. The remaining 7 people can either wait for their deaths, or form a team of their own. I have a name for that team already: Survival. What should that team do then? Feng Yuan had a bad feeling. He knew that he was going to be a member of that team. The black-robed Ghost King smirked. What should they do? Challenge the first team, obviously. Challenge the first team. The black-robed Ghost King didn't like the confused looks on their faces. You're all so stupid. You can't understand anything unless I show it to you. So stupid. As he spoke, he flipped his wide sleeves. Instantly. Thump. The entire universe hall shook so violently that they couldn't stand still. They all held on to things to steady themselves. The scene they saw after the turbulence shocked them all. What a scene! The hall was cut into half. And it was done very skillfully. The hall was split into 2 equal halves. Only the top floor was intact, and the lower 6 floors were all split. If one were to call the 2 sides the Chosen Hall and the Survival Hall, the 2 halls were only connected at the top level. They still didn't fully understand what was going on, so they turned their nervous gazes to the black-robed Ghost King. The Ghost King snorted. Chapter 1914, You're the Captain. Chapter 1914, You're the Captain. Isn't it obvious enough? Once you're divided into 2 teams, the chosen team will walk the chosen path, and the survival team the survival path. Are the 2 teams different? Feng Yuan asked nervously. The others were equally nervous. Of course they are. The black-robed Ghost King was very frank. Why is it called the chosen team? It's like the name suggests, it's the chosen one. The trials on the 1st to the 7th floors will be difficult for the chosen team. As for the survival team, he paused for effect. Feng Yuran asked eagerly, what about the survival team? How difficult will the trials be? The Ghost King chuckled. The survival team? It'll be hell mode at least. Why? Feng Yuran grew anxious. The abandoned ones are already weak. Why are the trials harder for them? They'll be killed. That's correct. No prize unfortunately, said the Ghost King cheerfully. Everyone stared at the Ghost King in astonishment. The Ghost King said matter-of-factly, why do you think it's called the survival team? Why do you think that the members are likely to die? Because it's an impossible mission for them. 7 out of 14. So that was 1 out of 2 of 50% chance. That wasn't a high probability at all. The Ghost King smiled as he studied the panic-stricken faces. What are the chances that the members of the survival team will get to the end? Feng Yuran asked gingerly. The Ghost King was quite patient. He rubbed his chin, thought for a while and said slowly, for as long as I can remember, the survival team has never succeeded. SSSS-. Everyone drew in their breaths. What? Never? That's not very likely. That's die for sure. That means that if we're not in the chosen team, not only won't we get the seed of the spirit source, we'll also die. That's, Many people panicked. What now? What now? What should they do now? Sapphiro and the others were all very anxious. May I ask who the captain of the chosen team will be? Ranmil was as innocent as ever as she beamed at the Ghost King. It was as if what he said hadn't affected her at all. The Ghost King looked down at Ranmil in a condescending manner, but his tone was much milder. There's no strict criteria for that. I'll pick whomever I like for the job. Everyone grew excited. They were about to fawn on the Ghost King, when he spoke again. Kiddo, you single-handedly killed a small group of my soldiers. That was impressive, and I should reward you for that. You're pretty approachable and capable, and you're a good physician as well. What a treasure. There. You'll be the captain. Chapter 1915. Princess Feng Wu should be the one. Chapter 1915. Princess Feng Wu should be the one. There. You'll be the captain. Whoosh. After those words, a bright beam of light shone down from above onto Ranmil. A shiny headband appeared on her forehead, and the words on it read, Chosen Captain. Already? That was so quick. The others looked from the black-robed Ghost King to Ranmil. The Ghost King found the scared looks on their faces most amusing. He guffawed and said, It's your game from now on. Kids, have fun. With a whoosh, the giant face on the ceiling disappeared. The hall also lit up. Everyone could see each other's faces now. Sister. Sapphiro was the first to react. Before Ranmil could say a word, Sapphiro rushed to her side, took her hand and said excitedly, Sister. Sister. Congratulations. I knew it. You're the most outstanding one of them all. You deserve to be made the captain. I guessed right. Sapphiro held Ranmil's hand and winked at her. I'm your own sister. You'll pick me, right? When there were outsiders around, the two sisters looked like best friends, but they both knew what the other really was like. Sapphiro was sure that if Ranmil still wanted to look like the pure and kind princess that she pretended to be, she had to choose her. As expected, Ranmil said shyly, Why am I the captain? I don't know anything. Everyone now realized what had happened. Ranmil was the captain now. The black-robed Ghost King had said that the captain would be the one to decide who would be in the team. And now, it was time to fawn on the princess. Feng Lu was the first one to reach Ranmil, and she said, Princess, please pick me. I've always been on your side. I promise that I'll do well. Before Ranmil could reply, Dugayama was there as well. Princess, princess, please pick me. I'll give you anything you want. Please pick me. Immediately, nearly all of them surrounded Ranmil and pleaded. Ranmil looked shy, and she waved her hands. I shouldn't be the captain. I'm not worthy enough. Feng Lu said, Why shouldn't you be? You're the prettiest, kindest, and most lovely girl of us all. Dugayama said, That's right. Not only that, You're also the most capable one of us all. Didn't the Ghost King say it just then? You single-handedly saved us all. No. It's not like that. Ranmil waved her hands. It shouldn't be me. I should give the role of captain away. Give it away. Feng Lu and Dugi Yamo's eyes lit up. Princess, who do you want to give it to? Ranmil looked gingerly at Feng Wu and smiled wryly. Princess Feng Wu should be the one. Chapter 1916 Show Off. Chapter 1916 Show Off. What? Feng Lu and Dugi Yamo didn't like the sound of that at all. Feng Wu frowned a little. This Ranmil. She was such a show-off. How interesting. Feng Sun frowned too. He didn't know why he frowned, but he just knew that there was something wrong with what Ranmil said. At the same time, Feng Lu asked, Princess, why do you want to give it to Feng Wu? Why? Ranmil said gingerly, Because Princess Feng Wu is the future wife of His Royal Highness, which means that His Royal Highness sees something in her. She's supposed to be the best girl here. No, I mean she's supposed to be the best girl on this continent. That's why she should be the captain. Feng Wu gave Ranmil a half-smile. Awesome. The princess had just taken revenge for what Feng Wu said about her earlier. She used the opportunity to make Feng Wu the target to be humiliated by Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo when she herself got to play the nice person. She didn't need to say anything, and the others would do it for her. Interesting. Very interesting. Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo went on ingratiating themselves with Ranmil. Of course you're worthy. You're the best. You're the true match of the crown prince, and Feng Wu is nothing. His Royal Highness has never acknowledged her. They went on disparaging Feng Wu and lavishing praise on Ranmil. Feng Sun smacked his head. He finally figured it out. Why was he upset? Because Ranmil was so fake. Ranmil, this is who you are. I used to think you were so innocent. You're such a hypocrite, thought Feng Sun. He glared at Ranmil. Are you done? That immediately silenced everyone. Feng Sun smirked. The Black Robe Ghost King made you the captain, so be it. Stop acting already. You'll only discuss Feng Wu. I know what you're doing. Ranmil's stomach lurched. Shit. She had deliberately made Feng Lu and Dugu Yamo say those things while she played the part of the innocent bunny. However, she had overdone it, and Feng Sun was now suspicious of her. No. Ranmil's ultimate target was Jun Linyuan, but to get him, she had to get Feng Sun first. Ranmil smiled bitterly and said, Young Lord Feng, you're mistaken. I really didn't mean it. I genuinely want Princess Feng Wu to be the captain. Feng Sun frowned and wanted to say something else. Ranmil cajoled Feng Sun in a soft, gentle voice. All right. If you don't like it, I won't say another word. Is that okay? Although I don't feel that I'm worthy of this position, if I keep declining it, young Lord Feng will be even more misled. So I guess I'm the captain. The others all nodded. Ranmil said, But it's so hard to pick the 6 members. Please don't hate me if you're not picked. I'm not doing it willingly. Hearing this, the others all said that they understood and looked eagerly at her. Chapter 1917 Touch and Go. Chapter 1917 Touch and Go. Ranmil smiled bitterly. Obviously, the first one will be Sapphiro, my sister. Please don't be mad at me. No, of course not. There were 6 places. Of course she needed to give one to her own sister. The second will be. She looked around in a seemingly troubled manner before her gaze landed on Master Ju. Master Ju is a very capable man and my good friend. I have to pick him. Yes, Master Ju was indeed very capable. The others didn't like it, but they managed not to say anything. Seeing that there were only 4 places left, Feng Lu and the others began to worry. Ranmil then looked at the second prince. She smiled and said, Your Royal Highness, you are as prestigious as you are capable. I wonder if you would like to be on my team? Immediately, everyone looked at him. After all, he was the second son of Emperor Wu, and Empress Dugu was his mother. Therefore, Ranmil had to show him respect. The second prince, Feng Lu and the others didn't like it, but they couldn't say anything. The second prince smiled. Actually, he had always been convinced that he was the most talented teenager, second only to Jun Lin Yuan. Thus, he had thought that the Ghost King would choose him as the captain. It had never occurred to him that Ranmil would be chosen first. Who would choose to die if they had the choice to live? So the second prince suppressed his resentment, smiled a little, and nodded at Ranmil. That was a yes. The others grew uneasy. Ranmil, Sapphiro, Master Ju, and the seventh prince. For out of the 7 places were gone, and there were only 3 left. Who would Ranmil give those 3 to? Those chosen would owe Ranmil their lives. Ranmil smiled, and looked at Feng Wu. Miss Feng Wu, will you join my team? SSSS. Many drew in their breaths. What happened to Ranmil? Why would she choose Feng Wu? Wouldn't it be nice if they just let her die here? Both Feng Lu and Duguyamo stared at Ranmil in disbelief. At the same time, Ranmil smiled at Feng Wu, looking as innocent and naive as ever. Feng Wu smiled back at her. One could almost feel the sparks between them that were ready to explode at any moment. The air seemed to freeze, and no one said a word as they looked at the 2 girls, who were at loggerheads. Ranmil was very pleased with herself, because she was doing everything above board. Since Feng Wu had tricked her and forced her hand, she was going to give Feng Wu that chance, and see what she would do. If Feng Wu said yes, she would be accused of being shameless. If Feng Wu said no, she was choosing to die herself, and Ranmil would have nothing to do with it. Ranmil smiled brightly. Feng Wu's smile grew wider as well. What if I say no? Feng Wu spoke unhurriedly. Ranmil put on a surprised face and said sincerely, Princess Feng Wu, the Ghost King just said that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.